They're good for moving trailers around too. We're bringing Maz Grande back out. Unreal Adventures in like a month and a half. It is middle of July right now. I decided I want to take this rig on the Unreal Adventure this year. The last couple of years I did pretty big builds. We had Louis Vuitton, we had the Jeep truck thing. I think the year before that I took Butter Jeep. I don't know, it's been chaos, it's been crazy. This year I want to break out Maz Grande. I've got a handful of upgrades I want to do to it, kind of get this thing back into top running condition. And I've got a couple other surprises along the way. I'm going to keep videos kind of short and sweet, kind of update as I'm building it. So hopefully we can knock out a few extra videos over the next few months and keep you guys totally up to date on what's going to go down in order to get ready for UA. First things first, we're going to be swapping out these wheels and tires. Milestar came back on as a sponsor for the trip, so I've got a set of 40 15-50-20 Milestar Patagonia XTs, and then I got a sweet new set of wheels. Who's ready for these bad boys? Kidding me? Look at that. Brand new Method Bead grip, 709. Putting 20s on my Mazda. That's insane. 20 by 9s. All right, let's go get these things mounted up. These things are like HD, which means super heavy duty and kind of heavyweight. All the way in the back corner of the shop, I got my tire machines. Those should help make this install go a little bit easier. Look at this bad boy. This is what's going on in the old Maz Grande. These are 40 15-50-20s Milestar Patagonia XTs. These things are massive tire. It's kind of cool. Tire companies are making more tires, like more big tires in like 18 and 20 inch sizes. So I've never run a 20-inch wheel on a rock crawler, but if you think about it, like a 20 with a 40 isn't that much different than a 37 on a 17 as far as like how much sidewall you get. So I'm hoping that these things work pretty well. Hoping the little 2.6 liter has enough power to turn them. We'll find out. Here we go. Jeez, that thing's giant. So the wheel is a 20 by 9 and it's a bead grip wheel. The bead grip is this technology that Method's been using for quite a few years now. Essentially it's a series of ribs or edges in here right where the bead sits. It's got a nice tall I guess safety bead on the wheel itself, but then beyond that it's also got these like serrated edges. And the goal there is to give a little bit more biting power so that when you air your tire down and you're like off-road and it's trying to push the tire off the rim, those little serrated edges are going to help it stay on the rim longer at lower tire pressures. I've run these wheels on the Butter Jeep. I took it on Ultimate Adventure a few years ago, and it was on 17-inch bead grips with 37-inch tires, so I'm excited to try out these new ones. The 20s and 40s fashion, you know what I mean? I'm gonna go ahead and mount this thing up, see how it goes. Now normally you use tire lube. Oh, I gotta put the valve stem in, dang it. Can't forget the basics. Now this truck's old, and it doesn't have TPMS, so I can just throw a regular valve stem in here. All right, there we go. We got our valve stem in. I'm gonna try and get my yellow dot to kind of line up with the valve stem hole. Yellow dot usually is the heaviest part of the tire. So you put it in line with the valve stem, and a lot of times you don't have to balance the tire quite as much, or it doesn't take as much weight. All right, here we go. So I started saying earlier, like, usually you run a bunch of lube on tires when you're doing them, and that just kind of helps with the install process. But since I am going basically straight from mounting these to going hardcore rock crawling, I want to make sure the tire is basically on there as tight as possible, I guess you'd say. So I'm gonna try and get these to mount without using a bunch of tire lube, which means you gotta kind of use some other tricks to get the tire to mount easily. There we go. Oh, come on, come on. On. Tires on the rim, and my valve stem lined up. That's awesome. This part right here kind of tells you if this tire is going to work really well off-road or not. If the tire pops on the bead at a really low air pressure, that means it's going to come off the bead pretty easily. Ideally, the tire is going to seat like right around 30-35 psi. Some tires you end up having to put a ton of air in, which is really sketchy. And sometimes on like some of the cheap aftermarket wheels, they'll pop on at like 10 or 15 pounds, which means if you're going to be out four-wheeling, they're going to come off the bead if you try and air down much. The other thing here is these tires are so wide, as it pops onto the bead, it's going to try and like rip itself off of the jaws that are on the machine. So I'm gonna mount it without it being basically attached to the machine. I put the arm over the top just in case this thing tries to jump. There we go. The back one popped on at like 15, 16. We'll see where the outer one pops on at. We're at 20 right now and still got a ways to go. And come on, any second. Pop. All right, that one hit right at 37 pounds on the outside bead. That is that's going to be a pretty solid performer off-road, I think. It didn't pop on there too early, and it wasn't like the super scary like 50-60 pound range, so solid performance there. Here comes one of the coolest parts of this wheel. This is the accessory ring. Basically, this is a ring that bolts on the outside of the wheel here. These are, in my mind, it's not just an accessory ring, it's kind of a bash ring. If you have beadlock wheels, you know that the beadlock rings always get smashed into rocks and beat up and everything. So if you're out there wheeling with a nice wheel like this, it's kind of cool that you can get an accessory ring that's replaceable. This is a good option as far as like a true beadlock goes, because typically a real beadlock wheel is considered a two-piece wheel and they aren't normally DOT approved or legal for highway use. This wheel is DOT approved, it's considered a one-piece wheel, and you still get the benefits of an off-road wheel with the bead grip technology that allows you to air the thing down and hopefully not lose a bead while you're out there rock crawling. You might not be able to go quite as low as a true beadlock wheel, but the way that it went on and popped on at 35 psi, the fact that it's a pretty wide tire, I feel like I'm going to probably be totally comfortable rock crawling with this thing, probably in the 8 to 10 psi range. I might run them a little bit lower just to see where the failure point is, but I don't know that I'm going to find it. It's a pretty cool option though. I mean, you've got a heavy duty wheel. It'll take the weight of a much bigger truck than my Mazda. You can air it down. You can get it in modern sizes like 18s and 20s. And it's got this replaceable bash guard ring or accessory ring. You can get them in different colors. I got red because it's going to look sick on the old Mazda. I'm going to pull all these bolts out. We'll bolt the ring back on. I'll throw a little bit of anti-seize on it just because I don't want these bolts to like seize in there. After I beat those rings up on some rocks and I need to replace them, I want to be able to make sure that that happens easily. Come on. I think they put like a little bit of Loctite on these. Or it could have been that my impact was just set to weak sauce mode. Here we go. Accessory ring on. Man, that thing is cool. I'll get these bolts back in and started by hand, like one thread, and then we'll run them down with the impact set light, and then I'll go back around and I'll torque them probably 25-30 pounds. These don't have to be ultra tight because they're really just holding the ring on there. One super cool 40-15-50-20 Milestar on the new Method 709 wheel. I've got 2 more to mount, and then we can figure out if these things fit or not. They look absolutely massive. Should be fine. Should be fine. Man, I sure hope the Mazda can turn these things. I can't wait till tomorrow. I gotta see how these things look on here. Get the airbags pumped up a little bit. Good enough. Let's see how they fit. So here's what we got. These wheels are 17x9s, and they got like 3.5-inch backspace. These are 20x9s with like a 5 3/4 backspace, I believe. Plus you got the bulge of the tire that sits out. So the new tires are actually gonna sit in probably, I don't know, quite a bit more than the old ones did. But I think it might actually work out pretty good in the front. The front, I feel like these are just gonna bolt right on and look good and be what we need. I'll probably end up having to get a spacer for the back. If you look, I've got this Dana 60 from a Chevy truck in the front, and then the back I've got a Dana 70 out of an old Ford F-250, like in 1980. And it is like, it's gotta be 3-inch minimum narrower track width altogether. So like the rear wheels are in like 1.5 inches from where the front is. That wheel bearing or hub is loose. Ha! Look at that. I got some work to do. Put that on my list. Gotta admit, I'm stoked that we found that. For the last couple of years, this truck's had like a little bit of negative camber on this side, and I assumed that I just bent the housing. But if it's just a worn out kingpin bushing or loose wheel bearing, that's even better. Poor old truck doesn't get used enough. There we go. Center caps are cool until you got locking hubs. Oh my gosh, that looks rad. Who would have ever thought I was gonna put 40s on a Mazda, and let alone 20s and 40s. Cool. Let's set this thing down and see what it looks like. Well, I think the front's going to be a win. they don't really stick out any farther than the other ones did, maybe a little bit less. If they don't hit the links when I turn and they don't rub the shocks when it articulates and all that, then the front's good. You didn't think I was going to leave you hanging and not get to see the whole thing. This thing is insane looking. It looks so good. I've got a little bit of a backspace issue because these wheels have so much more backspace, and with the bulge of the tire, I've got some clearance like issues. But dang, for just bolting them straight on, this thing looks tough. It looks so tough. I'm just out cruising looking for a spot to take a thumbnail photo, and I messaged a guy who lives up the road for me. I guess he's got some rocks, maybe a little bit of a rock garden. Maybe we'll get to do some wheeling, I don't know. Pretty cool. I think that's it for this Dirthead shed. Stoked to throw the new methods and Milestars on Maz Grande. Stoked to be able to take this thing on the Unreal Adventure 2025. Keep following along. There's going to be a bunch of updates on this rig as well as a couple others that I'll have my hands on this.